This story is titled, My Fiancée Cheated on Me with My Brother 1 week before our wedding and got pregnant. 2 years later, the baby isn't his. And now he wants to reconcile. All right, chat. Buckle up because this one made me stop scrolling. We got a 12-year relationship, a $34,000 wedding, a fiancé who treated loyalty like a subscription service, and a brother who forgot what the word brother means. You already know how this ends. Let's get into it. He starts off by saying, Hi Reddit, so I, 30 male, work as a project estimator for a commercial general contractor out of the Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina. Basically, I price jobs for a living, and I read cancellation clauses the way most people read menus. Remember that. It matters later. So I met my ex-fiancée Marin when we were both freshmen at NC State. She was in communications. I was doing construction management. We started dating sophomore year, and honestly, from the outside, we probably looked like one of those couples that just works. 12 years together by the time it all blew up. 12 years. That's longer than most marriages last. Marin ran our social life like a project schedule. She picked which friends we hung out with, which events we showed up to. If I pushed back, she'd just go quiet until I ended up apologizing for a boundary I hadn't even finished setting. Classic stuff. My older brother Caleb is 2 years ahead of me. Insurance adjuster. Lives about 40 minutes away in a townhouse he bought after his last relationship fell apart. We were tight growing up. Not in some movie way, but in that way where you just trust somebody, because they've been in the foxhole with you since day one. When I was 11 and busted my collarbone jumping off the shed roof on a dare, Caleb carried me inside. Didn't tell mom how it happened, just said I fell. That was the deal. I proposed to Marin in October, about 2.5 years ago. Took her to Wrightsville Beach on a weekend trip and did the whole sunset thing because she'd mentioned once, we were watching some rom-com on Netflix, that she thought beach proposals were the only ones that weren't corny. So I listened. I always listened. She said yes, cried, called her mom before we even got off the beach, posted a ring photo to Instagram within 8 minutes. Yeah, I checked later. 8 minutes. Ring still wet from the ocean mist. She wasn't celebrating an engagement. She was filing a press release. We started planning fast. Marin wanted a spring wedding, late April, which gave us like 6 months. That's tight but doable if you stay on top of vendors. I'm a project estimator, so timelines are literally what I do. I built a spreadsheet, tracked every deposit, every contract, every cancellation clause. The whole package came in around $34,000. Venue, catering, photographer, DJ, florist, efficient, all of it. We split it 60-40 because I made more. By the time everything went sideways, I had about $22,000 of my own money dumped into a wedding that was never going to happen. Here's where the red flags started showing up, even though I didn't call them that at the time. About 2 months after the engagement, Marin's phone went from sitting on the kitchen counter to being permanently face down and glued to her hand, including in the shower. Twice she told me she was visiting her college friend Britt in Charlotte for the weekend, and both times she came back with no photos, no stories, none of the usual Marin recap. I noticed, but I didn't snoop. 12 years of trust doesn't just go away because someone starts bringing their phone into the bathroom, but it should have. The other thing was Caleb. He started skipping family dinners. My mom does Sunday dinner almost every week. Nothing crazy, just pot roast or whatever she's in the mood for. Starting around December, he missed 3 straight, then 4. Said work was busy. And look, insurance adjusters do get slammed during storm season, but storm season in North Carolina is summer and fall, not December. I texted him once. You good, man? Haven't seen you in a minute. He sent back a thumbs up. That was it. Our whole brotherhood reduced to a single yellow thumb. So there I was. 6 months into the engagement, fully planned wedding, $22,000 already gone, and a fiancé who smiled in my face every day while doing something behind my back that was about to blow my entire life apart. But the thing is, I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers weren't adding up. It was about 2 weeks before the wedding. I was going through our joint credit card, tagging wedding charges in the budget spreadsheet, and spotted something weird. $38 at a restaurant in Holly Springs. That's 10 minutes from Caleb's townhouse and 45 in the wrong direction from Charlotte, where Marin said she'd been that weekend. A few other charges kept popping up near his zip code too, none of them anywhere close to the Charlotte route she kept claiming. So I did what I do when a sub's numbers don't match the scope of work. I ran a full audit, checked her odometer. Charlotte's a 340-mile round trip. She'd claimed 4 visits since January, 1,360 miles. Her car logged maybe 380 extra. Caleb's place round trip? 50 miles. 4 months at 50 each lined up perfectly. The math wasn't just off. It told a completely different story that ran straight through my brother's zip code. So yeah, that's what happened. And over the next 6 days, I moved like a guy taking apart a building from the inside without touching the outside walls. Day 1. Talk to a lawyer. Small civil litigation office near Briar Creek. $300 flat for the consult. Told him everything. He said document it all and lock down my assets. Day 2. Pulled my $3,200 out of the joint wedding fund and moved it to a new account at a different bank. Took photos of the engagement ring next to a ruler and matched it against the original receipt and the insurance policy. Day 3. Confirmed the apartment lease was only in my name. Marin was never added because she had a collections hit on her credit, and the landlord didn't want the risk. At the time, she was embarrassed about it. Now it was the single best piece of paperwork I'd ever filed. I copied every wedding contract, highlighted every cancellation clause, figured out my max losses and total exposure, and put everything into a folder I labeled Wedding Cancellation Costs. I told my buddy Terrence, best man, known him since freshman year, that I might need his guest room soon. He didn't ask why, just said the key was under the mat. I went home, sat in the living room, waited. Marin was already on the couch when I walked in. TV off, phone nowhere. Just sitting there staring at the wall like somebody had unplugged her. She said we needed to talk. I'll give her this. She didn't try to ease into it. She just said, I've been sleeping with Caleb since January, and I'm pregnant. She sat me down like she was about to wreck my life. She didn't know I'd already saved it. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice, just looked at her and said, I know. 2 words. Watched the color drain right out of her face. She kept explaining anyway, like an explanation was going to change anything. It started the night of our engagement party. My parents hosted it in Apex. I'd been giving a toast. Actually, let me tell you what I said, because this part matters. I was standing there to my family, mom, dad, and especially Caleb, the guy who carried me inside when I broke my collarbone and never told a soul how it happened. There's nobody I trust more to stand next to me on the biggest day of my life, to my brother. I remember my dad tearing up. I remember Caleb nodded along with this tight little smile. And I now know that while I was saying those words, Marin was on the back porch 30 feet away, texting the brother I'd just toasted, starting the whole thing during my own speech about loyalty. After the party, the texting got worse. By January, they were actually meeting up. I asked how many times. A handful. I'd later find out it was 15, maybe 20 times over 4 months. A handful. Like counting reps at the gym. I asked if Caleb knew she was telling me. Yeah, apparently they'd agreed it was the right thing to do before the wedding. How noble. Couldn't stop hooking up for 4 months, but they managed to coordinate a confession schedule. Beautiful teamwork. Pause. There's a name for what she just pulled. Burden transfer. She didn't confess out of guilt. She confessed so Dom would be the one to cancel the wedding. That way she gets to tell everyone he couldn't forgive me instead of, I destroyed a 12-year relationship for his brother. Last act of control disguised as honesty. Back to it. Last question. Is it his? She said yes. About 7 weeks along. I got up, went to the bedroom, pulled out the fireproof lockbox. Ring was already inside. I'd moved it 2 days earlier when she left it on the bathroom counter. Receipt, insurance docs, appraisal photos, all of it. She hadn't even noticed. People don't check the inventory when they think they own the building. Told her she had until Friday to move her stuff out. Lease was in my name. She started doing that quiet crying thing. Chin trembling, big eyes, looking at you like a puppy that got caught chewing the couch. I'd seen that face 100 times. Used to work on me. Didn't anymore. Grabbed my keys and drove to Terrence's place. He opened the door, looked at my face, and just went, "What happened?" Wasn't even a question. Told him everything. He didn't say much. Handed me the spare key and told me to stay as long as I needed. That night, around 1 a.m., I drove to Caleb's townhouse. Parked in the lot, left the engine running. Just sat there staring at the light in his bedroom window, with my hand on the door handle for a solid 30 seconds. I knew exactly why I was there, and exactly what I wanted to do. But I'm a numbers guy, and I ran the numbers on what a felony assault charge would actually cost me. The bond, the record, my career, the satisfaction to consequence ratio. It didn't pencil out. He wasn't worth the line item. Put the truck in reverse. Drove back to Terrence's. That's the night I stopped being Caleb's brother and started being his creditor. Next morning, I ran the cancellation plan I'd already built. Most deposits were just gone. The DJ was the only one who gave a full refund because he was my college roommate's cousin and just said, "Man, take it. Life's too short." I ate about $14,600 in losses. Every receipt, every email, every contract, already in the folder. Already sorted. Marin blew up my phone that day. 12 texts. I didn't respond to a single one. Screenshotted the last one where she said we should talk about this like adults, and dropped it in the folder. Caleb? Dead silent. Guess shame makes people disappear. By Friday, she'd moved her stuff out. I went home to an apartment that smelled like her perfume with screw holes in the walls where her art used to be. Sat on the floor in the empty living room eating cold pizza off a paper plate. Best meal I'd had in a week. This is where it got ugly. Not the breakup. That part was clean on my end. It got ugly because of everybody else. My parents found out within 48 hours. Caleb told them. Whatever version he gave was one heck of a spin job. Because when my mom called, she wasn't sympathetic. She was managing me. Said Caleb felt terrible, and they were dealing with a really difficult situation. I told her I wasn't interested. She said I was being reactive. I said I was being accurate. 2 weeks later, she begged me to come to Sunday dinner. Just her and Dad. No Caleb. No Marin. So I went. Walked in and knew immediately it was a setup. Not because Caleb was there. He wasn't. But the whole house had been rearranged around Marin. Prenatal vitamins on the kitchen counter, a baby's first-year book sitting on the coffee table, and a framed ultrasound photo on the mantel, right next to my senior portrait. My dad handed me a sweet tea. These things are complicated, son. My mom started going on about how Caleb was really struggling and how Marin's pregnancy had been rough. Then she just casually drops that she'd been going over to help them out twice a week. I set the tea down, looked at the ultrasound, looked at my mom. You put that photo on your mantel. She blinked. It's my grandchild, Dominic. It's a trophy from the woman who cheated on your son. And you framed it. Dad started with the let's all calm down thing. I was already standing up. Didn't slam the door on my way out. The silence handled that for me. 3 weeks after the breakup, my mom called to tell me Caleb and Marin were getting married. Small ceremony. In the backyard at my parents' house. Same backyard where I used to shoot hoops with Caleb growing up. Same house where Marin and I had our engagement party. And my parents were hosting it. I said, if you go through with this, I'm done. Not just with Caleb and Marin, with all of you. Mom started crying. Dad grabbed the phone and told me I was being extreme. I said, you're hosting a wedding for the woman who cheated on me with my brother in your house a month after she blew up my life. There's nothing extreme about walking away from that. They went through with it anyway. Small ceremony, maybe 20 people. I heard about it from my cousin Derek, who refused to go. Called me the morning after and told me Marin wore white. White. I almost laughed. At least she's consistent. Recycled the boyfriend, might as well recycle the color palette. Pause. I need you to understand what just happened. North Carolina is one of only a handful of states that still recognizes alienation of affection as a civil claim, meaning you can literally sue someone for interfering in your marriage or relationship. Now, Dom wasn't married yet, so that doesn't apply here. But the principle is the same. This man's parents chose the woman who destroyed their son over the son she destroyed. They hosted it. They fed the guests. They watched her walk across their backyard in white. That's not keeping the peace. That's a cosign. Back to it. Derek was the one person in my family who never tried to play both sides. Not because he's some saint. Dude had been through his own version of this. His college girlfriend cheated with his roommate years back, and his own parents told him to get over it. So when my situation happened, Derek didn't need the summary. He already knew the plot. After that, I went full no contact. Parents, Caleb, Marin, all of them. Changed my number. Deleted every social media account. Told my circle, Terrence, couple work friends, Derek, my aunt. No updates, no gossip, nobody playing peacemaker. Some people respected that. Some didn't. Marin tried 3 times that first month. First was through a mutual friend asking for closure. Shut that down in one text. Then she showed up at my apartment, pregnant enough to be showing. I walked right past her, unlocked my door, went inside. Didn't say a word. Third time, she sent a handwritten letter. 3 pages. 1 line was showing through the envelope. I know sorry doesn't cover it, but I need you to know that, and it disappeared into the fold. Didn't open it. Put it in the folder. Meanwhile, Marin was telling everyone her version. Spun it as a love story. She and Caleb fell in love unexpectedly. She tried to fight it, but couldn't. Never mentioned the 4 months of lies. Posted throwback photos on Instagram with captions about unexpected blessings. Just erased me from the story like I'd never existed. She redecorated Caleb's townhouse with the exact color scheme she'd picked for our wedding. Dusty blue and cream. Recycled the boyfriend and the vision board. At least she's eco-friendly, I guess. But most people in our circle weren't buying it. Derek started quietly filling family members in on the real timeline. I specifically told him not to, but Derek's got his own issues with people who rewrite history. The tide turned. My aunt stopped coming to Sunday dinners. 2 cousins unfollowed them. My uncle called my dad and told him he was disgusted. And through all of that, I just did the only thing I could control. Went to work. Came home, tracked every dollar, saved every document, and I waited. I threw myself into work, picked up overtime, took on a bid for a hospital expansion nobody else wanted. But I also went to work on the situation. My lawyer already had the folder. He said since we had a clear paper trail showing who paid what, I had a shot in small claims for her share. Small claims in North Carolina caps at $10,000, and getting money out of someone with nothing is its own nightmare. But sometimes a demand letter shakes something loose without having to go to court. Demand letter went out in June. Total, $8,200. Marin's share of lost deposits plus the engagement ring. In North Carolina, if the engagement gets broken because of the person who received the ring comes back. She'd never returned it. Marin's response? She had her mom call my lawyer's office saying the letter was harassment. My lawyer sent back a polite reply explaining that a civil demand letter is not harassment. Then we waited. I was rebuilding in the meantime. Renewed my lease, repainted the bedroom, hit a warehouse liquidation sale for furniture, picked up a weekend side gig doing residential estimates for a buddy's remodeling company. Extra $600 to $800 a month, which helped fill the hole Marin had blown in my savings. Around this same time, a younger guy at work, junior estimator, been on my team about 6 months, came in one Monday, looking like somebody had run him over. Over lunch, he tells me his girlfriend left him for some dude in her grad program and cleaned out their joint account on the way out. I didn't give him a speech, just emailed him a blank copy of my tracking spreadsheet and said, document everything. Receipts, texts, account statements. Even if you never do anything with it, you'll feel better knowing it's there. He looked at me like I'd thrown him a life raft. August. Another surprise. Call from Caleb. First time he'd reached out since everything happened. No apology, just, dumb, drop the demand letter. Marin's stressed and it's not good for the baby. I let the silence sit for a good 5 seconds. Then, the demand letter is between Marin and my attorney. If she wants to deal with it, she can go through proper channels. Come on, man. Don't be like that. Caleb, you slept with my fiancée for 4 months and married her in our parents' backyard. Don't tell me how to be. Click. Good. September. I filed in small claims. Filing fee was $96. Filed for $8,200. Her share of lost deposits plus the ring, which appraised at $4,100. I put together my case like it was a $2 million project bid. Every receipt in order, every text printed out, every contract with the cancellation clauses highlighted. If this was a construction project, I would have passed inspection on the first walkthrough. Marin got served at Caleb's townhouse. Court date set for November. She never filed a response. In North Carolina, if you don't respond to a small claims case, you're basically asking for a default judgment. Pause. Quick legal reality check for anyone who thinks ignoring a court summons makes it go away. It doesn't. In small claims, if you get served and don't file a written response, the judge can rule against you without hearing a single word from your side. You don't even have to lose the argument. You just have to not show up for it. Marin didn't just lose this case. She forfeited it before it started. Back to it. Derek kept me in the loop on Caleb's household. Marin had quit her marketing job. Pregnancy complication. So now she had zero income and was fully depending on Caleb. And Caleb, making about $58,000 a year, was suddenly covering 2 people, plus a mortgage, plus the stress of a woman who was used to getting whatever she wanted. I didn't react, just filed it away. The picture was getting clearer every day. Court day came the second week of November. I showed up in a collared shirt and slacks, folder in hand, 15 minutes early. Marin walked in 5 minutes late with Caleb right behind her, like his being there was supposed to mean something. It didn't. The magistrate was this no-nonsense woman, probably mid-50s, told me to go first. I set the folder down, 2 inches thick, tabbed, color-coded. Watched Marin's eyes follow it as I cracked it open. Something shifted in her face. That folder was thicker than anything she'd prepped, mostly because she hadn't prepped anything. I walked her through all of it. The engagement, the shared fund, the deposits, the contracts, the ring. Had a receipt for every dollar. The cost breakdown in a table. Text messages where Marin confirmed she knew what things cost and agreed to our split. The magistrate flipped through my stuff, stopped on the spreadsheet, looked up at me over her glasses. This is very thorough. I do this for a living, Your Honor. Then she turned to Marin. Do you have any records? Receipts? Proof of what you put in? Anything in writing? Nothing. Marin looked at Caleb. Caleb stared at the floor. The magistrate waited a full 5 seconds. In a courtroom, 5 seconds of dead silence feels like a building settling into its foundation. Marin's defense was that the breakup was mutual, and I was being vindictive. No paperwork, no receipts. When the magistrate asked if she'd returned the ring, she said she didn't think she had to since the wedding was canceled. The magistrate goes, in North Carolina, An engagement ring given in contemplation of marriage is a conditional gift. If the engagement is broken due to the donee's actions, the ring is to be returned. Judgment: $7,400 my way. Deposit losses plus ring value, minus a small offset for shared household stuff. Not everything I'd lost, but it was on the record. And in my line of work, what's on the record is what counts. On the way out, Caleb grabbed my shoulder in the hallway. I looked down at his hand like it was something stuck to my shirt. He pulled it back quick. Dom, this whole court thing wasn't necessary. Neither was any of this. Kept walking. Marin didn't pay. Not in 30 days, not in 60. Filed for wage garnishment through my lawyer. Cost another $200, but she was unemployed, so there was nothing to garnish. So we filed a judgment lien with the county instead. Just sits there on her financial record like a sleeping dog, waiting for her to try to buy property or refinance anything. Quiet. Patient. The junior estimator stopped by my desk around then. Said the spreadsheet worked. He'd gotten about $2,800 back through his bank's fraud department because he kept the records. Shook my hand and said, I owe you one. Sometimes the best thing you can do with your own wreckage is hand somebody else the blueprint. But the real crack in the whole thing had nothing to do with money. About 3 months after court, mid-February, so almost a year since the breakup, Caleb texted me. 5 words. Can you meet me tonight? Almost didn't answer. But something about the way he said it was different. No demands, no deflection, just a question that felt like it had been typed and deleted a dozen times before he finally sent it. Met him at a diner off Highway 54. He was already sitting in a booth, holding a coffee that looked like it went cold an hour ago. He looked terrible. Not the put-together insurance guy with the firm handshake and the pressed shirts. He looked hollowed out. He didn't open with an apology. He opened with something I wasn't expecting at all. The baby isn't mine. I just sat there, waited. He told me everything. Baby came in late November. A girl. Blood type came back AB. Caleb's type O. Marin's type A. Pause. Quick biology lesson for those of you who were on your phones during genetics class. Blood type O means you carry 2 recessive alleles. You can only pass on an O. Type A means you pass on either an A or an O. So the only possible baby blood types from a type O father and type A mother are A or O. Period. AB means there's a B allele in that child that neither Caleb nor Marin could have provided. Blood types don't negotiate, chat. They don't care about your story. They're just math. And the math said, Sir, that is not your daughter. Back to it. DNA test right before Christmas made it official. Not his. He was sitting across from me, and for the first time since we were kids, I watched my brother break down. Not the quiet kind either. The ugly kind. The kind where other people in the diner start looking real hard at their plates. I sat there running the math. Marin cheated on me with my brother. Got pregnant by somebody else. Blew up my engagement. Married my brother in our parents' backyard. Cost me $14,600. Refused to give my ring back. Lost in court. And the kid wasn't even his. I didn't celebrate. Didn't gloat. Honestly, I felt nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction. Just confirmation that none of this was ever about love. Not for her. It was about control. About keeping options open and making sure she always had somebody locked in while she kept one foot out the door. I'm sorry, Dom. First time he'd ever said it. I'm so sorry. I looked at him for a long time. Then I just said, I know. Left a 10 on the table and walked out. That wasn't forgiveness. It was just an acknowledgement. There's a difference. The fallout was nuclear. Caleb moved out of his own townhouse within a week. Marin was left with no income, no husband, no confirmed father for her baby, and a judgment lien on her record. My parents, who'd spent a year propping her up, were apparently blindsided. They shouldn't have been. They knew who she was. They just didn't care until it happened to Caleb, too. My mom called for the first time in months. Didn't pick up. She left a voicemail saying she was sorry, that her and my dad made a mistake, that Caleb was torn up. I saved that voicemail. Put it in the folder. Not for legal reasons. Just because I wanted a record of the exact moment they finally admitted I was right. Never called back. Here's what people don't get about revenge. The kind that actually feels good doesn't happen in one moment. It's not a slap or a speech or a mic drop. It's more like building something, one brick at a time until the whole thing's standing, and the other person realizes they're stuck inside. After the paternity thing came out, everything moved fast for everybody else. Not for me, though. I just kept going. Got promoted to senior estimator. Bumped to $82,000 plus a project bonus structure. Picked up a used 2019 Tacoma. Paid cash from overtime I'd been stacking. Moved into a better apartment in North Hills with a balcony and real counter space. The rebuild was quiet, steady, and entirely mine. Caleb filed for an annulment. In North Carolina, annulments are hard. You gotta prove fraud. His lawyer argued that Marin lied about the baby's paternity, and that's what got him to marry her. Court agreed. Annulment went through in March. Once it was official, Caleb was off the hook. No alimony. No splitting anything. Marin had zero legal claim. 30 days to get out. Desperate Marin was the worst version. She called my parents nonstop crying. My mom, still feeling guilty, let her move into the guest room. So now Marin was living in my parents' house. Same house she got married in. Same house I grew up in. Then she got a hold of my new number. Pretty sure she went through my mom's phone and started texting me. Apologies, regret, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Blocked her. But she wasn't done. May rolls around and she shows up at my job site. Commercial build-out in Cary. I'm in a half-framed conference room going over drywall specs when a laborer tells me there's a woman in the parking lot asking for me. My site super was in the trailer with a clear view of the lot. Guys in hard hats everywhere. Walked out. There she was, leaning on a Honda Civic that had seen way better days, baby on her hip. She looked thinner, tired, smiled at me and said, "Hey, stranger." I didn't answer right away. Looked down at the spec sheet in my hand, wrote something in the margin, then looked up at her like I'd just noticed she was standing there. "You can't be here. This is an active job site. No hard hat, no clearance, and there's a liability issue with the baby." The smile dropped. She wasn't expecting the work voice. Started going into this thing about how she'd been thinking a lot and how I was the one who got away. Behind me, I heard the trailer door creak open. Couple guys up on the scaffold suddenly got real interested in the parking lot. One of them muttered something to the other, and they both just shook their heads. "Marin, I have a judgment against you for $7,400 that you haven't paid. You want to talk? Talk to my lawyer." Her face turned red. Baby started fussing. "That's really how you want to do this? This is how you did this. I'm just finishing the punch list." Went back inside. My site super met me at the trailer door. "That the one?" I nodded. He shook his head. "Some people don't read the specs before they sign the contract." First time I'd laughed in months. Called my lawyer after. He said if she came back we could file for a no-contact order. Told him to get it ready. July. Marin tried to refinance a car loan. Lender pulled her credit, found the lien, couldn't get approved without clearing it. Stuck. She called my lawyer's office wanting to work out a payment plan. He called me. I said, "Full amount, no discount, $200 a month till it's done." She agreed. First payment came in August. $200 a month every month on the 15th. A standing reminder that consequences don't come with a cancellation clause. It was a Saturday in December, almost 2 years since the breakup. I was at a spot in downtown Durham with Terrence and Derek watching a college football game. There was this one play where the kicker shanked it so bad the commentators didn't even know what to say for like 3 seconds. Anyway, I was in an okay place. Not great, not healed or whatever, just stable. That kind of calm you get when you've done the math on your own life and the numbers finally work out. Phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text. "Dom, it's Caleb. I'm using a friend's phone. I need to talk to you. I know I don't deserve it. I'm outside Motorco. 2 blocks away." Terrence saw my face. "What?" Showed him the text. He shook his head. "You don't have to." "I know, but I want to." Walked over. Cold enough to see my breath. Street was quiet except for bass thumping from a venue down the block. Caleb was by the entrance, hands jammed in his jacket pockets. He looked older, not dignified, drained. Like the last 2 years took more out of him than me. Straightened up when he spotted me. Opened his mouth, closed it. "Thanks for coming." I waited. He went into it. Said he knew he'd messed up bad. The annulment was the worst experience of his life. He'd learned a lot about himself. Wanted his brother back. Whole thing sounded rehearsed. When he finally stopped talking, I said what I'd been sitting on. "Caleb, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Every time you picked up the phone, every time you drove over to see her, every time you sat across from me at Sunday dinner and said nothing. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern." He tried to cut in. I kept going. "You married her in mom and dad's backyard. You stood where I was supposed to stand. And when the DNA test came back and you found out the kid wasn't yours, that's when you finally got what betrayal feels like. Not when you did it to me. When it happened to you." He stared at the ground. "You remember when I broke my collarbone off the shed roof? You carried me inside. Didn't tell mom. Just said I fell." I stopped for a second. "That's the guy I lost. And I don't think he's coming back." His jaw went tight. "You had 100 chances to be my brother. Every dinner. Every text. Every time you drove past her exit and could have just kept going. You chose her every single time. That's not a mistake, Caleb. That's who you are." Something moved behind his eyes. Maybe the kid who once carried his little brother inside. Maybe just the shame of knowing that kid was gone. Either way, it hit. So no, I said. I don't want to make things right. I don't owe you that. I don't owe Mom and Dad that. And I definitely don't owe Marin that. You all made your choices. I made mine. So that's it? That's it. He stood there a few more seconds waiting for me to crack. Offer something. When I didn't, he just nodded slow, turned around, and left. I watched him walk away, not because I was feeling sentimental or anything, just to make sure he actually left. Old habits. Walked back to the spot. Sat down, picked up my drink. Terrence looked at me. Good? Good. Derek tapped the table and didn't say anything. Sometimes that's the perfect thing. Didn't bring up the $7,400 still being paid off at $200 a month. Didn't mention the lien that's going to follow Marin's credit for another 5 years. Didn't mention the annulment sitting on Caleb's public record, or the fact that the family they blew mine up to build lasted shorter than some gym memberships. Results spoke for themselves. 3 weeks later, Mom sent a Christmas card. Didn't open it. Put it in the drawer next to last year's. Not the folder. Folders for evidence. The drawer is for stuff I haven't decided about yet. It's getting full. Last I heard from Derek, Caleb moved into a one-bedroom on the outskirts of Durham. Had to sell the townhouse to cover legal fees and the financial mess Marin left behind. Derek said he looked like a guy who finally did the math and realized the total was never going to add up. Marin? Still in Garner. Still paying me $200 a month. Last month's was 12 days late, though. Haven't decided if I'm going to let that slide or send my lawyer a note about it. The $200 isn't really about the money at this point. It's about the principle that actions have line items, and every line item has a due date. She started seeing some new guy. Met him in a parenting group or something. Didn't ask for details. That's her story now. And me? Signed a contract on a condo last month. 2 bedrooms, small patio, 12 minutes from the office. Did the inspection myself because project estimator, remember? I trust my own numbers more than anybody else's. Ran the comps. Checked the foundation. Found a hairline crack along the east wall. Nothing serious, easy fix, but the kind of thing most buyers wouldn't catch. I caught it. I've learned what happens when you don't check the foundation before you commit. Read every clause in the HOA agreement, and I made sure the only name on the deed was mine. All right, guys, he handled the breakup like a busted job site. Walkthrough, photos, paperwork, claim filed, rebuild started. Marin's still sending $200 a month for the relationship she torched. Caleb's in a one-bedroom doing sad math on his choices. Their parents are stuck in a quiet house wondering why one son ghosted them. The revenge isn't the judgment or the lien. It's that Dom's the only one whose life actually came out on schedule, and he's closing on a condo while everyone else is scrambling.